Thank you, Carl. Welcome to Rob Schmitt tonight. Rob, he has the night off on Bob Brooks. James Comey has been indicted, and the left can only thank themselves. All right, as I just said, James Comey now indicted, and I'll say this, it was only a matter of time. If you didn't think something like this was going to happen, you're just not living in reality. What was done to President Trump, the fake Russia investigation, was an attack on our entire system. It undermined the will of the people who voted him into office and the sanctity of our institutions. That's what happened. It's exactly why the president calls Comey a dirty cop. If what happened isn't investigated, if those who were responsible for it aren't held accountable, then how are we supposed to even have a country? I mean that. And I know there are millions of people out there who feel that way tonight, and we're waiting for this moment to come. You see, here's what Democrats and the left and the deep state, whatever you want to call it, thought was going to happen. Barack Obama was going to leave office, and Hillary Clinton was going to waltz into the White House and continue on with the woke experiment that was unleashed upon our country. But in walks President Trump, and thank God he did. They didn't account for someone like him, and they couldn't stop him, and they still can't. And he has blown up all of their grand plans for fundamentally changing this country into some kind of woke utopia. So in order to try and stop him, they decided to play dirty, play illegally. And then came the fake Russia hoax. The only problem for them is they never thought that they would get caught or face any repercussions. Typical deep state behavior, rules for thee, but not for me. Finally, though, with President Trump once again having to show the rights, you got to fight fire with fire, there are now repercussions. Before this happened, President Trump, he actually had to fire off this Truth Social post directed at Attorney General Pam Bondi, quote, "Justice must be served now." Earlier today, the president said this.
It's a pretty easy case because, look, he lied. You saw my truth today. He lied. It was yes, no. He didn't say, well, in my opinion, he didn't do a lot of things that maybe he should have, but I don't think he could because he lied. That was a very important question that he was asked, and he wanted to be specific, but he didn't. The only thing that happened to him, he didn't think he'd get caught.
That's it. Didn't think he'd get caught. So let's explain all of this here. First, start with this. The indictment stems from Comey's sworn appearance during a Judiciary Committee hearing on the FBI's handling of investigations into Russian interference in the 2016 election. Comey is charged with making a false statement to Congress in obstruction of a congressional proceeding by making false and misleading statements. Now, when it comes to the first charge, the government claims Comey falsely denied authorizing anyone at the FBI to act as an anonymous source to the media regarding the investigation. But the indictment asserts that Comey had, in fact, directed another FBI official to speak to reporters, to leak. On the second charge, prosecutors allege Comey obstructed Congress by making false and misleading statements that aim to impede the committee's inquiry into the FBI's actions before and after the 2016 election. Now, the legal process, it will ensue. James Comey made a social media post about his indictment.
My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
And I agree. That's all any of us are asking for. That if James Comey or anyone else lied about a giant lie and then went to take actions to help aid that giant lie, which is that our president colluded with Russia in order to win the 2016 election, you face consequences for it. And I could easily say that what the DOJ and many other agencies did to President Trump, his family, and many others broke the hearts of millions of Americans as we all just had to sit back and watch it happen. Had to watch his home get raided. We had to watch him pose in front of a camera in jail for a mugshot, sit through bogus court trials. Others went to jail, like Peter Navarro. I'd say that was all heartbreaking. Yet Comey went on to say this as well.
We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either.
Right back at you, James Comey. We don't want to live on our knees and bend to the will of the woke left, and we're not. And now the argument in the media is this: oh, it's tit for tat, it's vengeance. But it's not. It's not by a long shot. This is about holding people responsible for trying to stop the people of America being allowed to vote into office their political candidate of choice. And the media is acting like everything that transpired under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was some kind of righteous cause, that everything the left is saying Trump is doing now isn't exactly what the left did for more than 8 years. And here they were on MSNBC.
President Trump's retribution campaign reached a new and ominous level late yesterday.
Former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted.
The idea that you would go after someone, and listen, even as Democrats, we had our fair share of issues with James Comey, okay? But that's not a reason to prosecute someone.
You do this, you turn the person you hate into a martyr.
Degrading the democracy and ruining, literally perverting the great ethos and tradition of the Department of Justice.
There are accusations that this is political.
There is no shame in the Trump administration. And in fact, they quite deliberately have shattered this norm.
I don't know how they can say that with a straight face. It's beyond me. I really don't even know what to say anymore besides they're insane. It's either they're gaslighting the American people or the left is that brainwashed. Millions of Republicans and beyond actually do believe this. You see, when you make up a lie like that of the Russia hoax, of that magnitude, you have to continue lying to then advance it. And eventually, when you lie enough, you're going to get caught. It's simple, really. That's just how life works. And Democrats always said this when President Trump was being prosecuted.
No matter how powerful you are, no matter how much money you think you may have, no one is above the law.
We today uphold our solemn responsibility to ensure that everyone stands equal before the law.
The fact is, no one is above the law.
We must be clear. No one, not even the president, is above the law.
No person is above the law in this country. I can't say it any more clearly than that.
So if no one's above the law, they should be jumping up and down for joy that potentially the former director of the FBI is being investigated for criminal activity. I mean, no one's above the law, right? They said it. So let's make sure that no one indeed is above the law. Look, Democrats and the left, they brought this on themselves. You know it, I know it, they know it, everyone knows it. And sadly, it was hatred that led them to this point. It was their hatred for President Trump. It was their hatred for the conservative movement, traditional values, and common sense government. They hated it so bad and wanted to hold on to power so bad, it led them down a very dark path into creating a fake narrative of Russian collusion. The hatred warped their minds. It literally did. It warped their minds. And nothing good is going to come out of hatred. Now, I have no idea what's going to happen with James Comey when it comes to this case. The legal process is going to play out. Hypothetically, if found guilty, who knows what his sentencing will be. But if you don't think for a second the left was swinging for the fences when it came to President Trump, you are wrong. James Comey himself said it. They were looking to put him in prison.
Do you agree with that it would be difficult or nearly impossible for the law enforcement institutions to put him in actual jail?
No, they would just put him in a double wide somewhere out near the fence, out in the grass. And he would eat there, he'd shower there, he'd exercise there, he'd be away, as Danya Perry said, from general population, but it's obviously doable.
Okay, here to weigh in, Washington Times legal reporter and author of Lawless Lawfare, Alex Swoyer, along with CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp. It's a pleasure to have you both here on Friday night. Matt, I want to start with you, just your initial reaction to James Comey getting indicted. And it kind of seems like this was coming, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, this is a very serious, non-personal issue. I mean, I've got great animosity towards what James Comey did as the FBI director. That is the problem. He took an institution that was once respected, and he used it because of his political views, to further his political views. Let's be very clear. He said in his press conference he wasn't going to prosecute or recommend prosecution for Hillary Clinton because he looked at the polls and determined she was going to win, and he didn't want to hobble her presidency. Yet, he used the FBI during that campaign to do everything he could to hobble Trump. Then when Trump won, to hobble the beginning of his presidency, and he's lied over and over and over again. I hope there's more indictments because, and that's the central part of this crime, this whole idea of the role he played to take a false and lying dossier, mainstream it, normalize it, and try to bring Trump down over these false Russian collusion charges.
That's right. They tried to bring him down over that. Alex, I want to get your take on the left's reaction and them saying that, they've never seen anything like this before, and James Comey's heart is broken for the DOJ here. It seems pretty hypocritical.
Yeah, I think that, those that live in glass houses should not throw stones. It's about time there's some accountability for what went down back in 2015, 2016, and so forth. I write in my book, actually, that it was this Russian investigation, the Russia hoax, that cost American taxpayers, it was like $40 million in the various special counsel probes that had to go into this. That was all based on false information. I'm not quite sure what's going to go down when he's actually arraigned October 9th. He is appearing from the reports in front of a Biden appointee. Something Matt and I had talked about before coming on the show was that this venue that he's in, the Eastern District of Virginia, while more favorable than the District of Columbia, it's still very, very blue. So although there was an indictment returned, I think a lot of people are skeptical whether we're actually going to see a trial or any sort of conviction.
Yeah, Matt, that's where I wanted to go next. This judge appointed to the bench by Joe Biden back in 2021 here, how that impacts the case. What do you think?
Yeah, our judges are out of control. Our prosecutors are out of control. I just don't see where justice works in these politicized environments. Washington, D.C. area, Northern Virginia being a part of this. It's so politicized. If you have Jim Comey's or Joe Biden's woke politics, you're going to win in these courtrooms. If you have my politics, you're going to lose in these courtrooms. What they do every day demonstrates that. We've long ago left this idea that Lady Justice is blind. The courts are part of the effort to silence people who have views that, ironically, are traditional and American and consistent with our founding. We're the hunted. And Donald Trump being the president, it can't stop these judges.
Well, they were the hunted. President Trump has said before he is the hunter now. And Alex, I want to ask you about the fact that President Trump, he kind of had to coerce maybe the DOJ. Now, I really don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but he put out that truth post saying the time for justice is now. Why do you think he had to do that?
Yeah, I think he's been waiting for a while to see answers. You have to remember, he faced 4 criminal indictments in the span of 4 months back in 2023. It was just the effort for the 2024 election from the left, and he wants accountability. And I think the voters did too. When I was doing research on this exact topic, pollsters told me that although voters didn't use the word lawfare, they talked about the weaponization of law enforcement and of the government. And this was exactly what they're thinking about. And so everybody wants accountability. They want answers. The question, I think, will be is if we get that, or if there's more charges to come. One of the things I was kind of waiting for was the fact that James Comey, his friend, the law professor that he leaked to, Daniel Richman, he actually, there's reporting out there that he had said and told federal agents that, yes, he would talk to press on behalf of James Comey, and that at one point he had information from James Comey of classified information, classified documents, highly classified intel. That, to me, is a serious charge that should have been looked at as well.
We could get more indictments. This could expand. We could get more indictments here. Let me be clear. What President Trump, what Pam has been saying, but what Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and others did here is a real attempt to resurrect the nature of our republic, of our constitutional republic. I mean, what Biden and Obama did with their power for a long stretch of period of time was to go after their political opponents. Remember what they did with the Tea Party groups, with Loretta Lynch at the IRS. That was one little piece. Spying on reporters is another thing Obama did. Biden did everything he could to harm and to jail and to bankrupt the man who was running against him for the presidency. Remember that. That is outrageous. And James Comey,
to silence him. And to silence him.
Yeah, and James Comey wore the pink hat and supported that stupid parade. And this lined up with his politics. Do everything I can at the FBI to help Joe Biden, to help my party. This is disgraceful.
Matt, I want to continue on with that because I had this conversation with a family member over the last holiday season. And to put it very plainly, yeah, he kind of felt like that if this doesn't get investigated and people don't get indicted, in his own words, we really don't have a country. That's how serious this is.
Yeah, so they're accusing
Yeah, well, more than
Trump
half the country.
Matt, go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt.
They're accusing Trump of using his presidential authority to go after his opponents, and that is a false and lying narrative. What we're doing is bringing these institutions back into the intent of why they were created, which is to prevent people from using their power to go after their opponents. What Jim Comey did is, in a sly, sneaky, and sleazy way, is leak things to reporters that made it harder for Donald Trump to gain the presidency and then to be able to serve as the president. That is the abuse of power. Obama knew he did it. Biden knew he did it. Clinton knew he did it. And no one's gone to jail. And I'm not saying I'm overconfident that we'd get a successful prosecution in Washington, D.C. or Northern Virginia, but it's about time we started putting these people through the process.
That's why I said it subverts the will of the voters with these leaks after President Trump got into office to make it so he can't govern, that he couldn't actually function as the president with this hanging over his head. That was the intent of all of that here, at least allegedly for now. Alex Sawyer, Matt Schlapp, got to leave it there. I appreciate you both coming on.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, coming up, the assault on ICE agents, it continues, this time in the Windy City, Chicago. To me, it really seems like the left won't be satisfied until an ICE agent is killed. My God, after what we saw in Dallas this week. I'm going to have the details on this next. Welcome back in. They're at it again, the far left freak show, because that's what it is, causing chaos and violence at an ICE facility in Illinois. Almost seems like they won't be satisfied until they see an ICE agent be killed. You know, it wasn't enough for them to see agents shot at by a sniper in Dallas this week. They want more, apparently. In response, tear gas, rubber pellets, and pepper balls, they were deployed by federal authorities as the deranged leftists attempted to block vehicles from entering the facility and assault ICE agents. And we wonder, where does this ideology come from? Well, let me correct myself. I should say we don't have to wonder. We know. It's Democrat politicians who don't want to see their future voter base shipped out of our country after bringing them here illegally.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets.
Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic.
When I see ICE, I see slave patrols.
Well, this comes just days after that deadly Dallas ICE shooting that FBI Director Kash Patel concluded was a pre-planned attack. He had multiple searches online, the shooter, that is, ballistics, and the Charlie Kirk shot video, and also searched apps that tracked the presence of ICE agents back in August. It was an elaborate plan for a young man. You know who else had an elaborate plan? 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, the accused killer of Charlie Kirk. At 22 years old, he knew exactly what to do and then successfully evaded law enforcement for a while. Are we really supposed to believe that he came up with that all on his own? He planned that all on his own. And apparently Thomas Matthew Crooks, you remember him, he acted on his own. The 20-year-old from outside of Pittsburgh nearly took out the most famous man on the planet, all on his own. I know for me and millions of others, that theory is just a tough pill to swallow. President Trump plans to go after the people funding these planned attacks. Let's watch.
We're looking at the funders of a lot of these groups. These are anarchists and agitators, professional anarchists and agitators, and they get hired by wealthy people.
What we have seen, if you look at whether it be going back to the riots that started with Black Lives Matter and all the way through to the Antifa riots, the attacks on ICE officers, the doxing campaigns, and now the political assassinations, these are not lone, isolated events. This is part of an organized campaign of radical left terrorism.
We are properly going to chase them down like the domestic terrorists that they are.
Our prosecutors were following the money with Treasury. We're working with Homeland Security, Cash's agents, all of our agents, DEA, ATF, U.S. Marshals, combined are working and with state and local government to take these people off the streets.
And they should be. Joining me now, Tricia McLaughlin, the DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs. Tricia, it's a pleasure to see you tonight. Thanks for coming on. What I want to start with is reacting to the sound bites we just heard from President Trump, Stephen Miller, Pam Bondi, about going after these groups that fund. We know they are organized. They are actual organizations here, and tracking them down because it's become an egregious problem.
Bob, thank you for having me. And absolutely, this is going to be a whole of government effort, whether it be Treasury, the Department of Justice, the FBI, or Homeland Security investigations. We have to follow the money. As we speak, we have riots going on at Broadview Detention Facility over in Chicago, about 200 rioters, one of which there was a firearm that was confiscated. We're seeing that these are professional protesters. They do this for a living. They're being bussed in from places outside of Illinois itself. We're actually seeing that some of these protesters are going to the same protest locations from Los Angeles to Portland to Chicago. So absolutely, President Trump is correct. This is looking highly coordinated, highly organized. And who is funding this? Is it domestic? Is it foreign adversaries? Is it both? But we will get to the bottom of this, and we will stop this chaos and violence for the American people.
Tricia, the left's, Democrats, many politicians, they try and make the argument that there is no organized left-wing terror happening in our country, that, you know, even Joe Biden himself said, oh, it's just an idea. Antifa's an idea here. I want to let you respond to that.
Well, the American people have their own eyes and ears. We're seeing what's happening in Chicago today. We saw what happened just 2 days ago at our Dallas ICE facility, where a deranged gunman opened fire and indiscriminately was shooting at our ICE detention facility as well as our vehicles on the ground. And sadly, one detainee was killed and 2 are in critical condition. We pray for them tonight. But to act like there is no connection between these politicians calling our law enforcement Nazis, the Gestapo. We just saw Jasmine Crockett calling our law enforcement, likening them to slave patrols. They are giving a free pass and really encouraging these deranged lunatics to take actions into their own hands and perpetuate violence against law enforcement. I mean, Bob, we just saw a little over a year ago, President Trump was nearly killed within an inch of losing his life. Of course, just 2 weeks ago, many of us lost our friend, a hero in Charlie Kirk. When does the violence stop? When does the bloodshed end?
I want to talk about standing up to this. DHS and ICE agents, they got to go out to work. And we know that shooter in Dallas, he left a note and it said he wanted to make it hard for them. He wanted to put fear into ICE agents so they wouldn't go do out their duty for the American people here. What's your response about how DHS, how ICE, how our agencies are going to respond to this?
We won't be slowed down. We won't be deterred. These actions are just going to make us go harder. You're exactly right. The evidence is really amounting to the fact that this individual hated ICE law enforcement and he wanted to kill them, whether it be those shell casings that had etched into them the anti-ICE messages, the handwritten notes that said he wanted to inflict maximum violence and pain and terrorize ICE, or the fact that this very much looks like a copycat of the Charlie Kirk assassination, it being a similar firearm, it being a sniper shot from a elevated rooftop. But regardless, we won't be slowed down. We will keep on flooding the zone. We're going to go to those sanctuary cities and we're going to arrest the worst criminals. The American people gave us a mandate on November 5th, 2024 to get these criminal illegal aliens out of our streets, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Patricia, we appreciate the work you're doing, DHS, ICE, all our agencies, to make our country safe again. So important to have our country back. Tricia McLaughlin, it's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure, Bob. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. Okay, coming up, the rest of the world's UN delegates storm out like little children during Bibi Netanyahu's fiery and powerful UN speech. Dr. Michael Savage is next.
I've surrounded Gaza with massive loudspeakers connected to this microphone in the hope that our dear hostages will hear my message. We have not forgotten you, not even for a second. The people of Israel are with you. We're wiping out the terror regime of Hamas and ensuring that this savagery will never threaten Israel again. Giving the Palestinians a state 1 mile from Jerusalem after October 7th is like giving Al-Qaeda a state 1 mile from New York City after September 11th.
Yeah, I don't think Israel's going to let that happen. A powerful message there from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier at the UN. Of course, the delegates from other countries, they decided to act like children and Right before her speech, dozens of them, they stormed out just like they did last year, which means the prime minister's strong message about finishing the job in the war against Hamas terror and securing the release from all the remaining hostages in Gaza was to a bunch of empty seats there at the UN. Now, earlier in the day, President Trump, he departed the White House for the Ryder Cup, telling reporters before he left, it looks like we have a deal on Gaza. Here he was.
It's looking like we have a deal on Gaza. I think it's a deal that will get the hostages back. It's going to be a deal that will end the war. It's going to be a deal with, it's going to be peace.
Dr. Michael Savage, host of Savage Nation, joins us now. Doc, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Before I let you go here, not only did the delegates walk out, there was pro-Hamas protests all over New York City after Netanyahu's speech today. There's some of the video. That was what was going on just around the corner from the UN. Your reaction to what we saw there?
Well, it's a bigger issue than what I saw there, Bob. So if I have a couple of minutes, I want to lay the groundwork for what I'm about to say. First of all, I believe Netanyahu must stop the war. He cannot wipe out every terrorist, so-called, in Gaza. That's absurd. That would mean killing all the male population in Gaza. He can't do it. He won't do it. They've lost the PR war. You say, well, what does that matter? It matters a great deal. The world has turned on Israel and on the Jews. Is this something new? No, not to this extent, though, Bob. Number two, there was no internet. There was no social media in the past. There is now. Now, having said that, I want to back up for a minute. In 1948, when Israel was created, or 47, 800,000 Jews who had lived for 500 years in the northern Arab crescent, Morocco, Algeria, Libya, etc. They'd been there 500 years. On the creation of the state of Israel, 800,000 Jewish people had their property seized, their assets seized, and they were deported from these northern African countries. Where did they go? They went to Israel. They have nowhere else to go. Now we look at Gaza. What happened on October 7th is a worldwide horror. But you don't fight that by creating another horror, by killing hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of people, as we are seeing, whether by accident or on purpose to drive them out. So what is the solution? I read a solution in the beginning. And by the way, I'm not the only one on this, and I support the state of Israel and a Jewish homeland. I want to be very clear of that. A large percentage of Israelis also oppose prosecuting this war any further in Gaza. And I pray that Trump is right when he says peace is at hand, and this will come to an end. You can't kill every male above the age of 15 and say that's going to bring peace. It will never bring peace. But having said that, there is a solution that I saw, Bob, that's worth talking about. Gaza is not very wide, 3 miles to 6 miles wide. You cordon it off with a demilitarized zone, the entire strip, cordoned off, North-South Korea type of deal, demilitarize it, the entire separation. Cut off northern Gaza, make it part of Israel, rebuild central and southern Gaza. That's the broad plan that I saw in the beginning. And I don't know what Trump means by peace is at hand or that we have a deal in place until we see it.
Right.
My guess, Bob, is that it's going to be something along those lines with the hostages returned, because they're never going to go into Gaza City, kill everybody in Gaza City to get the remaining terrorists. It can't happen. And I think Trump knows that it's impossible. So that's the overall picture as I see it. There's no pretty answer to any of this. It's a nightmare, whichever way you look at it. It's been going on since Cain and Abel, and I don't think it's going to end tomorrow.
Yeah, all great points. It's all valid points here. What do you think about a Palestinian state, though? And I kind of want to get your take on countries like the UK calling for it, where they have major war happening on their continent as well, and then maybe now trying to help dictate somehow, you know, what's going to happen on the Gaza Strip.
The UK has become a new Soviet Union, a mini Soviet Union under this monster Starmer. I cannot believe the man wants a national ID card now for everyone in England. It's right out of 1984, but even worse. The man is a clear and present danger to peace and security, not only in the United Kingdom, but in all of the world. Starmer is the problem there. But you asked a question prior to that, Bob, which I forgot. Honest to God, my mind was focused so on Israel. I forgot exactly what the question was.
No, just other countries. I highlighted the UK. only because I wanted to hear basically you say that, because I thought that was going to be your response. But other countries jumping in and saying, yeah, there needs to be a Palestinian state next to Israel.
And that can never, after October 7th, that's off the table. It will never happen, can never happen. You saw what happened when they had a sliver of a piece of land in Gaza. Imagine what would happen if there was a Palestinian state side by side with the Israeli state with their own military. We know what would happen. They're very clear. From the river to the sea, we will make it Jew-free. It's simple as that. In other words, they want absolute and total genocide. They want a Judenfrei like the Nazis. It's not going to happen. That's not on the table. It won't happen.
Yeah,
impossible.
Benjamin Netanyahu's never going to let that happen.
Never. No one's going to let it happen.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to let it happen.
Okay, well, according to our president, there's a deal possibly in the works here.
Oh, I hope so.
You know, we pray to stop the
I
killing.
think it's going to be the demilitarized zone, Bob. A demilitarized zone, hostages return, northern Gaza becomes part of Israel, and the rest of Gaza gets rebuilt. What happens with the Hamas and the weapons is another story. I have no idea.
Got to leave it there. Dr. Savage, have a great weekend.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it very much.
Good to see you. Coming up, here's something that might catch your interest. The potential future governor of one of our states wants to make it so your children, your grandchildren, must learn LGBTQ indoctrination, even if parents and guardians don't want them to. Okay, there she is, Mikey Sherrill. I'm going to talk about that next. Okay, welcome back in. The New Jersey governor's race is heating up and on the cusp of possibly turning red. New Emerson polling that came out yesterday shows Republican Jack Ciattarelli is tied with Democrat nominee Mikey Sherrill in voter support, both showing a near 43% tie, 11% of voters undecided. Now, the poll released the same day that New Jersey Globe, it dropped a bombshell article on Mikey Sherrill saying she was barred from walking with her class at the U.S. Naval Academy in 1994 as a punishment connected to the massive cheating scandal that implicated over 130 midshipmen in her class. Someone who has centered her entire campaign around her military service as a U.S. Naval Academy graduate, but she failed to walk after graduation after that scandal for not reporting classmates involved in the scandal. That was her response. She wrote this: I didn't turn in some of my classmates, so I didn't walk, but graduated and was commissioned as an officer in the U.S. Navy, serving for nearly 10 years with the highest level of distinction and honor, still, without question, a black eye, as she fights allegations of corruption after making a fortune while in Congress. But I think most notably here, she did an interview where she said something I would think that would put Jack Ciattarelli automatically in the governor's mansion. That's a possible mandate for LGBTQ indoctrination for New Jersey kids.
I would push an LGBTQ education into our schools. Parents have a right to opt out of a lot of things, but this is not an area where they should be opting out, because this is an area of understanding the background of people throughout our nation.
Joining me now, Dick Morris, advisor to President Trump, and Tina Descovich, co-founder for Moms for Liberty. It's a pleasure to have you both. Dick, I want you to react to that. I would think that would just put Jack Ciattarelli back in the governor's mansion, but I could be wrong. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that Sherrill has an excellent chance to win, and the more the Democrat opens her mouth and says things like that, the better his chances get. The issue now is not gay liberation or rights or any of that. The issue is parental power.
Sure.
Do parents have the power over the values that their children are taught? Or do they concede that power when they enroll them in public school? And that was the issue in Virginia that resulted in a Republican victory. And I think it's going to result in a Republican victory in New Jersey as well.
Yeah, I think it's a huge deal. And you are right. It's stripping power away from parents here. And Tina, I want to bring this up here. These are pictures of 8 recent trans shooters. Now, whether or not people like me putting this up, I don't care. This is a fact. So mandating this kind of education to children will worry some parents here. What do you think?
Parents have the
Tina, go ahead.
Parents have the fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children. That includes opting them out of anything that conflicts with their religious values and morals that they're teaching their children. The Supreme Court ruled on this in June of this year with Mahmoud versus Taylor, that parents have the absolute right to opt their children out of LGBTQ books and curriculum. And so, This poor lady, she cannot be governor of the state of New Jersey because she doesn't even understand what fundamental rights are. She doesn't even follow what the Supreme Court has just recently affirmed and ruled in again. And so parents have the right to opt their children out, and this will continue whether she gets elected or not.
Dick, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I think we have to understand that what the left is doing is telling the trans community out there they're fascists, they're Gestapo, they're out to get you, and you have to fight back. Take up your gun and fight back. And the left is using the trans community like a hit squad to go out and go after conservatives by inflaming them, by telling them that their liberties are at stake. The fact is that those who are opposing the gay rights measures do not want anything other than keep them out of women's sports and don't force your children to convert. But the left is painting it to them as if this is a fundamental question of their civil liberty, of their sexuality, and that the only alternative is violence.
Yes.
And that's why Kirk was killed, and that's why this issue is arising.
Spot on, Dick. Tina, I'll give you the last 30 seconds here.
It's unfortunate in America that we keep having to reassert this conversation. As Mr. Morris just said, it was settled at the ballot box in Virginia. I guess it's going to have to be settled at the ballot box again in New Jersey. We're seeing it still all across the country, school districts and others, drawing a line and putting their feet down and saying they're not going to follow President Trump's executive orders on girls' sports and all of these other issues. And so we at Moms for Liberty will continue to keep standing with parents and keep fighting to protect and defend parental rights, and we ask others to join us.
Issues that are like 90-10 or 93-7 hugely swung to the conservative side. I don't get it. Got to leave it there. Tina, Dick, have a great weekend. I appreciate you both coming on.
Thank you.
Okay, coming up, two major ABC affiliates, guess what? They caved to Jimmy Kimmel. They are putting him back on air. News from the left. I'm talking about it. Stick with us. Okay, welcome back in. Time now for news from the left. Two major station groups that own 66 ABC affiliates. They are caving. They are putting Jimmy Kimmel back on the air. One of the groups releasing a statement saying this: our decision to preempt the program was independent of any government interaction or influence. Over the last week, we have received thoughtful feedback from viewers, advertisers, and community leaders representing a wide range of perspectives. We have also witnessed troubling acts of violence, including the despicable incident of a shooting at an ABC affiliate station in Sacramento. It goes on. These events underscore why responsible broadcasting matters and why respectful dialogue between differing voices remains so important. Okay, Jimmy is back on those affiliates. I just want to be clear, though. Jimmy Kimmel is nothing more than a mouthpiece for the left. That is it. It is not a comedy show. He does political monologues. Democrats and the left, they get to corner the coveted late-night TV slot because the executives running ABC and Disney are all liberals. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, I think people would have more respect for the network if they just came out and said, hey, yeah, we know this isn't comedy. It's left-wing propaganda. And guess what? That's what we're going to go with for now. At least be honest with yourselves, because that's it. And Kimmel always had free speech. A right to a TV show? I don't think so. That's not a right that exists. Curtis Howe, managing editor at Newsbusters. Bill D'Agostino, MRC research analyst. Good to see you both. Curtis, I'll start with you. Jimmy Kimmel's back, I guess. ABC, they're saying, hey, we're going to keep doing what we're doing here. You know, I guess we'll see what happens.
I love your point, Bob. No one has a right to a television show. Once again, the left is willfully choosing to misread the First Amendment. They love nothing more than their own free speech rights, supposedly. They hate, when we have our free speech rights as well. We found that R.L. Christie, since late September 2022, that 92% of all of Kimmel's political jokes have targeted the right. Even when Biden came into office, over three-quarters of his jokes were still about Donald Trump in Biden's first 100 days. So, it is, if Colbert is late-night group therapy for liberals, Kimmel's is like a pep rally, so to speak, because he has all the Hollywood stars to go along with his show as well.
Right, that's it. It is a left-wing show. That's what it is. Bill, want to get your reaction?
Yeah, it exists in this weird space between comedy and just normal political.
Oh, that's questionable. Comedy's questionable.
Right. I mean, yeah, but that and where you would find like proselytizing on MSNBC, and it does both terribly, right? Because the jokes suck and the proselytizing is like low info. It's like The View, right? And so yeah, they do both terribly. And so what is it? Who is this for? Who is actually watching this? There's a reason it's so culturally irrelevant. It's because it has no meaningful target audience other than people who got tired of watching Deadline White House on MSNBC, or I'm sorry, what is it, MS Now, I guess. So they decided to watch Jimmy Kimmel because they can't watch Nicole Wallace anymore.
That's it. It serves the left. I also want to get to this. Democrat Georgia Senator John Ossoff. So he went on a Pod Save America, the podcast, all right, claiming it was understandable to lie about Biden's ability to serve because of the threat that President Trump actually posed here. Here he was.
When you're facing the specter of Donald Trump potentially being reelected to the presidency, and you have in the sitting president the presumptive nominee, it's understandable that you're not going to be inclined to do or say things that might weaken that presumptive nominee against Trump, given the threat that he posed and poses.
All right, Curtis. So what he's saying is we'll do anything to keep power, including having a senile person in the White House who's not really running things. And trust, they'll do it to other Republicans. Wait till whenever President Trump's time is over, whenever that may be, they're going to do the same darn thing.
Well, first of all, Pod Save America, way to go, bro. You're passing yourself off as some sort of moderate senator, and you go on the Obama Bros podcast with your fake Southern accent. And second of all, he's really making this really easy for Mike Collins in the GOP Senate field to cut ads, because that's an ad right there.
Yes. Bill, last 30 seconds to you.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. I mean, if they're willing to go this far, right? If they're willing to subvert the very democracy that they claim to care about so much by lying to voters willfully, then what else are they willing to do? I mean, this whole presidency so far has been characterized by the left being willing to do entirely too much to stop Trump.
But they'll do anything. Literally, that's what he said. We'll ignore whatever we have to keep the power here. Oh, that's nuts.
Exactly.
Yep. All right. Got to run, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, folks. We'll be right back after a quick break. Welcome back in. You can catch me on my show, American Agenda, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with my co-host, Katrina Zish. I'm Bob Brooks. I hope you all have a great weekend. Get out, enjoy yourself. It'll be Monday soon enough. Infinity's next. Have a great night.